Hello, hello,
Hello,
everybody.
hello
Happy
everyone,
Wednesday.
and happy Deepavali.
That's right. It's also Deepavali, right? So,
Yes,
okay, before we get started, let's just quickly introduce ourselves. Hi, everyone. I'm Pauline Teo. And
and
here we have, oh, here.
rocking Rachel.
That's right. And we are both the hosts of Wednesday Night with Two Ladies, who predominantly comes on every fortnight Wednesday. So usually it's two Wednesdays in a month that we are actually on live. And today is our ninth episode,
Nice.
if I'm not mistaken, right? This is our ninth
Yes,
episode running the show. And on the show, we basically talk predominantly on four main topics. Number one being self love, second is actually on health, third is actually on parenting, and last but not least is actually on what's the other one?
relationship. Relationship.
Relationships. That's
Yes.
right. So today we've got a pretty interesting guest, but before that, as what we have just done is to wish everyone a happy Deepavali, considering that tomorrow is Deepavali itself. So we like to wish all those tuning in a very happy Deepavali, and for those who are not celebrating, it's happy holidays. So as usual, stay safe. Okay, follow the SOPs if you are running around and doing a little visiting. Okay. Um, so what do we have today? We have a very interesting speaker, okay, who will be sharing with us from the lens of a teenager, Jacinta John. But before we bring her up, we like to actually highlight that the following episode, which will be, on the
In 2 weeks.
17th, yeah, 2 weeks from now, 17th of November, we have teacher Keen with us. And he's basically a parenting and teachers trainer. And he's been helping a lot of parents and educators to bring up healthier, happier, and more successful children. And the topic that we will be sharing in 2 weeks' time is if money was not a problem, what dreams would you pursue? Okay, so I
Yeah.
think this would be a very interesting topic for parents, to kind of like figure this out, especially how to support your kids and to help them to determine, right, what is the right career path that they potentially can translate from their dreams into something which will make them money.
Yeah.
Okay,
And this will
yeah,
also be our final episode
that's
for
right.
Wednesday.
That would be our
Or-
season finale for season one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not the focus for today. It is actually season 9 today, and we are very excited to have Jacinta John. She's actually going to talk about from the lens of a teenager. So before we actually bring her on stage, well, Rocky Rachel,
Let me
please
introduce her.
introduce her.
Yes, let me introduce her. So Jacinta, she has a very how I say interesting background. She is actually an account. She graduated in accountancy, but today what she's doing is very different. As you can see from her titles, there is no such thing as accountants on the board there. So she's a
Right.
yeah. So she's a pastoral worker, what it goes in Sacred Hearts Church, and she actually deals very closely with teenagers and young people. That's why she's very what it goes suitable for today's
Passionate.
topic, right? Because she's
Yeah.
firsthand dealing with teenagers and actually
Right.
understanding things that they can't really share with their parents. They can share with
Mm,
her. So she's going to come
awesome.
on today and what do you call this? Share with us a few tips for us parents as well as other people who are dealing with teenagers, or maybe in the future you may have teenagers of your own. All
Yeah.
right.
I think it's actually more of the transitioning stage, right, that we want to talk about. So shall we
Yes.
bring her on stage, right, Rachel?
Yes. Let's bring Jacinta on stage.
Woo! Hi, Jacinta!
Hello,
Hi, Jess.
hello.
Awesome,
Thank you for
awesome,
coming.
awesome. We are so happy to
She's
have you
dressed up,
today.
Thank you for
very dressed
having
up.
me.
Yeah.
Most
Hey, I
welcome.
noticed that both you and Rachel are color coordinated. Did someone not
Yes.
give me a memo?
No memo was sent out. Okay, Rachel, high five, Rachel. Our connection very strong, no?
Man,
Telepathically,
is,
without
is
real
that why
connection.
my line here is getting a bit fuzzy?
Well,
Anyways, we do have a very interesting topic that we have, to discuss here tonight, don't we? Jacinta. So, can you actually very quickly just maybe tell us a little bit, with all the experience that you have working with teenagers, right?
Mhm.
What actually goes through the mind of, a kid, when they're transitioning from a kid to a teen? What's happening in that black box?
Okay.
Black mark.
This is based on experience. This is also based on everything that I have heard and journey.
Mhm.
Before I actually answer the question, right? So just to give you all a little background, how closely do I work with these teenagers? I meet them almost every week. Yeah, and as and when they want to come, I just create space for them
Right.
to share, to just be, and what actually runs in their mind more than often is like, why do people force me to do things that I don't want to do?
Mm.
What is the purpose of me, wanting to do this?
Right.
And usually it comes from a place where they are actually looking for their own identity in this stage.
Mm.
Yeah, so they are really searching. So that's
Right.
exactly what's running in their minds, like
Okay.
why, a lot of whys at this stage, especially when around 11, 12, 13, those that age, they are already thinking, and they start noticing things about themselves that
Mm.
um, as child they may have not noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
So that piques the, like, hey, what's going on? Hey, why must I do this? What's the logical reason behind it? Yeah.
So they're
Okay.
very
Did I answer
curious,
your
lah.
question?
Yes, yes, yes. So that means they're very
Definitely.
curious, like at this stage, like
Yeah.
transitioning, but more curious about themselves rather than
Yes.
outside.
It's more like
Yes.
self discovery, right? Like self exploring, self discovery, trying to figure out who they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they are
So,
moving towards ego identity. Yeah.
mm, so
Eco
in terms of
identity.
this, what do you mean by ego identity here?
Oh, that means I have to explain a little bit about given identity. Okay, so you know how uh, a child is known, their brains are known as sponge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything you give them, they can just
Absorb.
absorb at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, uh, parents or us as adults who are actually being around children when they are growing, we give them uh, the identity, the name. We tell them, oh, this is M&M's chocolate. This is your religion. This is your age. This is your name. So they just accept because they are sponge. And usually sponge, if you put into water, right, their work is just to absorb,
Right.
Mm,
right? Uh so in at that age, their identity is given to them.
Mm.
So whatever
mm,
they are actually believing in, they are practicing comes from their parents, their aunties, uncles, culture of families that they see, they grow in. But when they hit puberty,
Mm.
um, when they start noticing things about themselves, they move towards this stage where, okay, these are things that is told to me. These are things that my mom told me this, my dad told me this, but now I want to find out about me, these things that's coming. So there comes ego identity, where they want an identity for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They want to
mm.
they want to create an identity for themselves. That's why you see,
Right.
as teenagers, they make all these, different hairstyles, different colors, and people think it's just to
Seek attention.
attract attention, but more than often it's about creating something about themselves.
Right.
Like when you
They want
see a,
their own
a
special.
teenager with those weird hairstyle, then you remember them for that weird hairstyle, or
Right.
I will if you see someone who actually dyes their hair with rainbow color, you will forever remember them for their. So they want to be recognized
I
for
noticed.
who they are. Yeah. So
Mm,
more than often, they
okay.
are, that is ego identity, like really searching who they really are. So they
Okay.
tend to like find different ways, you know, try to be a part of this cool group.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm,
that's
mm,
ego
mm.
identity. I tried
And
to make it more layman term so that you all would understand. So I hope you guys understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
We do,
makes
we do.
sense. That makes sense. So, normally, at what age would this ego identity, right, start to surface?
Um, my generation. Okay, I'm 28 this year, right? So I don't mind telling you guys that I'm 28 this year. So uh, during my generation, it's more of like the 12, 13. But I think
Mm. It's
the
younger,
current
right?
generation, it's really very soon by 9, 10, they are already
Right.
having this, uh, this changes, and they want to be
Mm.
different, and you can see that changes as they move towards 10, 11. Yeah, so it's getting younger. I don't know it's a good
Right.
thing or a bad thing, but I'm still
Mm.
trying to figure that out. Yeah, but it's getting younger, that's the thing. Yeah.
But I would say that this is only natural with how things are at home. I think nowadays children, they are quite matured. If you notice, they ask really intelligent questions, things that in my time and age lah, right, we'll be like, huh? What was that all about? And nowadays you have kids asking really intelligent questions that you're like, wow, I never thought of it until maybe I was late teen, or maybe even like early adult when I was in college,
Mm,
when we kind of like ask those kind of questions, which comes from what you just correctly mentioned, is the tweens age, or maybe sometimes slightly younger than a teenager, right?
mm.
That we have those challenging questions that parents, most of which
Have to
fear,
face.
okay, having to face those kind of questions, right? So I think this is where kids now are getting more matured faster, I believe, and we really need to address like how do we, help them discover themselves as well, isn't it?
And
Mm,
so I also think because of the exposure they have,
Mm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, like I think uh, our generation, we are more towards Batu Seremban and playing 5 o'clock. Go play outside, play bicycle and stuff
Right.
like that. We go out, we fall, we
Mm.
bleed, and we learn that way. But the current generation are more towards reading stuff online. They follow. They
Right.
have social media accounts where they follow all these celebrities. It's not entirely bad. It's not entirely bad. It's the exposure
it's not
is
pros
good.
and cons.
Just how to teach them to balance, how
Mm.
to filter. Like
Right.
yeah, you need to know that these are all just entertainment. You need to know what to absorb and what to just read for the sake of reading.
Right.
Scroll for the sake of scrolling. Yeah, and they are. If you go and tell them it's bad, they will retaliate. To be very honest.
Mm.
Yeah. So they are at the age where don't control me, guide me.
Mm.
That if you can ask them, that's what they'll tell you. Don't control me, guide me.
Well, that becomes a little bit challenging for parents, right? Because I think in many parents' minds, the role of a parent basically is to be a protector,
Mm.
right? You take care of them, you make sure that they don't fall, that you watch, before they actually do stumble, right? You catch them and all that. So in terms of this now, from a perspective of a teenager or even a young tweens, right? How do we how would you actually advise parents then? What kind of support uh, their kids really need? Because you can't always be parenting them and kind of like protecting them all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's true. if you would ask me, I would say this. I have said this to a few parents as well.
Mm,
Um, the first step is to listen. I think when we evolve to become parents, we forget what it is like to be in this age where we were also all going through that. Um, and the first step is to really listen what they are actually saying,
mm,
or if they are not saying something, what does the silence say?
mm,
And before even before even telling them what to do, okay, this is what I do with the teenagers lah. Okay, I actually question them, come from a place of I want to understand
mhm.
what you are really meaning.
Right,
So when they actually feel, they sense, and they see that you really genuinely want to know where they come from, uh, then listening to them becomes easier.
right,
Mm.
And not just listening to them, they will begin listening to you.
right, right.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, all right. So it means it's like more of because from a kid level, it's the parents basically instructing them what to do. But when it
Mm,
comes to teenagers, it's more of guiding them. So the transition for parents, so it's challenging one. That's
Yes.
where the
Yes.
conflict comes about.
yeah,
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, all right.
Okay.
So
So I think that's the other thing that we have discovered. Like maybe I just need to show you guys this one slide. Okay. Here we go. Okay, we actually asked parents, right? Do they actually understand their kids at all? And I don't know how to read these results, Jacinta, because about 46% of them say sometimes, like, parents have an idea what's really happening. Whereas some of the parents are pretty good. They confidently say, 31% of them said, yes, I know what my kids, they're my kids, so I know exactly, what they are trying to tell me and I can relate to them. Whereas there is actually a 23% of them that have really no idea what's going on. So in this case,
mm,
what is your best advice? Because I think a lot of parents are facing these kind of challenges, right, on a daily basis. So what is your advice, for parents out there?
I want to first congratulate the 31%. You guys are awesome. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
31%. Hey, tune in. Those guys tuning in, you know who you are. So yeah, congrats. That's great.
Um, what was your question again, Pauline?
How do we actually help parents, with this challenge of not understanding this black box of what's going on?
I don't know how you guys are going to take this, but parents, self awareness is very important.
Hmm. What do we mean by self awareness?
So, me as if I'm a mother, do I understand myself first? So,
Hmm.
more than often, when we look at the way parents handle children, right, you will also be able to see a pattern where you know how they handle themselves. When they're hard on
Mm,
themselves, they're hard on the children. When they're judgmental about themselves and about everything that's happening, they're judgmental about their children.
Right.
And when the child does something and
Mhm.
parents you feel triggered, is the first thing is to sit with yourself and ask, why am I feeling triggered? Where
mm,
is this need of control coming from? Is it because it's easier if my child just listen to me, I just give him anything and everything? Or
Mm.
is it something that has happened before in your life? So becoming aware of your own experiences and integrating that working on yourself will actually reflect back on your relationship with your children.
Right.
Wow. So it's a reflection, basically, whatever that's the parents are what's the word, portraying on their kids is a reflection of what's going on inside.
It's a mirror
Or yeah,
image of things, right?
yeah. I guess the
And
saying
it's
goes
actually it's not just parents children relationship, you know. It's also friends, it's also spousal relationship, it's also community relationship, workplace relationship. There's always this mirror. When I
mm,
am triggered of something, where is that trigger coming from?
Hmm.
So usually, when I listen to parents saying stuff like, I cannot control my children, I will ask them this question: why do you find the need of wanting to control them? Just as you and I are human, these children are human. And if
Right.
you don't like to be controlled, how about them?
Hmm.
mm,
It's almost
yeah,
like
that's very good.
the saying, right? You get what you give. So if you want to be respected in return, you have to show them the same amount of respect
Correct.
as well.
Correct. Monkey see,
Mm-mm.
monkey do, you know. It's
That's
not
right.
what monkey listen, monkey do. It's monkey see, monkey do.
That's why the saying goes, right?
Yeah.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
So this is actually
So,
very important, right, for parents to kind of like get that, that kids, we need to give them space at times, and we also need to be able to be supportive and all. So now on the perspective of a parent lah, right, because parents are now also going through a lot of stress at work, or now some of them could still be working from home. How would you actually get parents to have that balance, or that zen, that middle point, right, so that they don't tip over and kind of like have unwanted burst, or outrages that happens, and because it's triggered by something the kids did.
That's a very
So
tricky question, Pauline.
I think it comes with practice, right?
right.
There is um if I can be very honest, there is no blueprint. There is really no blueprint for me to tell you, this you do this, this is what will happen.
Take the blue pill.
It's the choice you make in
Mm,
everything, you know. This happens, this is a very real situation. It happens at home for me as well, you know.
right.
And sometimes I am able to communicate when my dad like becomes so agitated because of what's happening at work, and I become so agitated, and and we just fight. Then
Hmm.
I would come to this space where, okay, we are fighting, you know. But that's because that awareness, again, it comes back to this self-awareness topic, you know.
Right.
That awareness, like, hey, okay, I because I'm feeling so irritated, so angry, and there's something going on with him as well. So
Hmm.
it's either me or my dad would come to this place where, okay, someone needs to stop screaming.
Right.
You know, someone needs to stop screaming, someone needs to stop shouting. And sometimes I will be the one who will be screaming and screaming and screaming, and my dad will come to this place of zen, you know.
Mm,
And he would just like lay his hands on me, like, okay, calm down, calm down. And then he's going through his storm, you know. And that very little act helps.
right.
Or if I reach that point of zen first, I would just be
Mm,
silent. Like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to say anything. Then I start listening to what he's actually saying. And when I say listen, it's not just about words. Um, this I think this is a very Asian culture. When we talk about listening, yeah, yeah, I'm listening, I'm listening. What are you listening? Are you just listening to the words? or are you listening to the emotions that's in the words? Are you
Right.
listening to their body language? Are you
Mm,
listening to their unsaid cry? You
Mm-mm.
know, when a child is silent, are you listening to that silence?
right.
Yeah,
Why are they silent in the first place?
that's yeah. So really, there is no blueprint parents. If I can speak to all of y'all, this all of y'all out there who's listening, there is really no boxed rule. It's about understanding yourself
Right.
and understanding your children. And when I say understanding your children, simply means you are challenged to step out of your comfort zone from that hat of I as a mother, I as a father, I need to be in control of all situation, to what actually my child needs.
Right.
Mm-mm.
From what I think my child needs to what actually my child needs.
Mm,
Mm.
And there you will figure your way out.
So speaking of all this, right? Like you mentioned being self-aware. I think that's really good. I mean, I'm feeling it. I'm not a parent yet, but I'm feeling it in my other relationships that I have right now, right? So
right.
it can work in many ways. But coming back to the topic today, which is parents, I wanted to ask, like, some parents, yes, they are very. I mean, we know like today's working culture, right? Parents are like both parents are working most of the time, and work is stressful, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
oftentimes, when it comes to parenting, is like a whole 24-hour job, that you can never take off from. Even if you're sick, you're still a parent, so there is no way of taking off from that job.
Yeah.
So sometimes we see is that a lot of parents, they tend to give in to their child. So if the child is throwing a tantrum, they actually tend
Mm,
to buy them something. Or the common thing would be in the shops, we will see the parents, like just giving them an iPad or a tablet, whatever it is, and just letting them watch their favorite show while they eat dinner. And the parents
mm,
are also equivalently on their phone. There's not much communication going there. So
right.
but the basis of things is like what you said, Jacinta. Like today's generation of children, they seem to be starting their ego identity even younger. And also it could be because of the exposure, and we see that many of them are getting things easier. Like it's not like our time, our parents would like probably ask us to work, like, okay, if you get straight A's in your exam, then you get this. Those were our age growing up. But today's kids is like, oh, you want an iPhone? Okay, I'll get this for you lah during your birthday, or not even birthday. Sometimes could be middle of the year, so just get something. So, what does the impact of this do, especially on a child's like financial perspective? Because they seem to get things so easily. Does it influence their concept of money and spending wise?
Yeah. That's a good question.
I think it does. Um, they are growing up with this mindset, I can get anything easily.
Yeah.
And ever seen, I don't know if you all have seen parents, but I have seen where when when the child breaks something, just to calm the child down, they go and get something similar and give to the child.
It's almost like
Mm.
rewarding the kids, right?
Yeah,
For bad behavior.
and we are actually communicating to the child that you can get things very easily.
Like
Mm,
there's no consequence to your action.
Yes, there is number one, there's no consequence to the action. Number
mm,
two is to take things for granted. And um, it translates this thing, right? This thing that we are actually communicating through our actions as parents when we give them easily things, it translates um, to how they relate, not just money. Their view of money is very, it becomes very watered down, their relationship with finance, like anything and everything is easier to
Mm.
get. So when they don't get, they get so frustrated, and then anxious, and then they don't know how to handle that, the no. They don't
Mm.
know how to handle the no. And you see, it's just one aspect, but I'm just giving y'all a chain reaction to it.
Yeah.
When they don't know how to handle a no in this small situation, imagine being rejected in a university application,
Yeah.
or being
Application.
rejected in job application, or even
Mm.
worse, if they are proposing to someone and they are being rejected. And
Mm.
when they can't handle that, then they look for an outlet to release that rejection, and they start making wrong decisions.
Mm.
Mm. Mm. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Wow.
We
Yeah. I mean,
talk
like.
so much, we are so aware of all the mental health challenges that we have nowadays. It's very real, to be very honest with all of you out there who's listening. It's very real. And when we don't teach, um, cancel teach is not the right word. When we don't witness to our younger generation what is it like to be resilient, what is it like to be courageous, then the chain stops with us. You know,
Mm.
there is a break, and they feel like they are floating on water, and then they have to find things out by themselves, and they
Mm.
start feeling very lonely. Like there's no one to guide them. How come when I'm younger, everything is so easy to get, but now it's like so difficult? How come
Mm.
nobody tells me things like this?
Yeah.
And then comes
Actually.
up this question about education. Like why the school doesn't teach us all this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's your question was just one aspect, but I just help you all to see this one aspect is actually interrelated
It's
to everything.
interlinked. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm. 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 Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But like even like Pauline, like I mean, in our line of profession, we see so many people today with like Malaysia is like one of the highest household debts, right, in the region.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from that, foundation when they were kids, that they get things so easily that, debt is what you're getting things as fast as possible. You want that thing as fast as possible, so you take up a loan.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of financial habit that we are unconsciously teaching our kids. So
Yeah.
this in
I,
terms of financial
yeah.
perspective, there's only going to be more and more household debt later on because that's the only way you can get things immediately.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think the other point here also, right, it's we're teaching the kids to have the mindset that it is always about instant gratification.
Correct.
So this is
Mm.
where I think parents need to realize, right, with having those kind of actions, where you reward them or you keep on giving them material items, for them is equate to I want it now, I want it now, I want it instantly. I don't have to wait. I don't have to be deserving of a reward. Every day is an
Mm.
ice cream day, every day is a reward day kind of thing for them. So they don't actually learn how to accept a delayed gratification, for example. Exams are coming up. So for example, SPM is now postponed to March, right? So if you get really good grades come May when results is out, this is what you potentially will get, instead of
Mm.
giving them those items now as a
Mm,
reward to study hard, okay, so that you pass your exam. You know what I mean? So I think these are a lot of things which is interconnected and interrelated with how it will impact your kids later on in future if we don't do the right actions managing them the here and now. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there was another thing that we really wanted to understand from you as well, right? On this lines of, preparations for the kids. When we come to SPM and SPM is almost over, then, this million-dollar question will always be asked, right, to us. So what do you want to do? What do you want to study? And I think this is a very, very common questions, right? The parents, have to kind of like figure out, whether or not my kids are going to go to university, what vocation are they planning to study. And interestingly enough, we have a poll that we ask also, and we ask whether a decision on a lifelong career at the age of 18 is too young, or is it the right age for a kid to decide. And as you can see here, it's really amazing that it's quite a thin line between too young to decide, which is almost 50% here, and it's the right age for them to decide. And some parents actually think that they can handle making such a decision. But else, 8% only interestingly says, too late already to decide on what vocation you want to study. Because as a mom and dad, my concern if it comes to finance is I need to start preparing for you at a really young age. It's not just like now you want to go, I've got the money, like from a money tree or something where I can just pluck and give it to you. So,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on this, Jacinta?
Actually, I have a question.
Hmm,
If 18 is too young to decide, then what's the right age to decide?
interesting. Or maybe the more correct question we should all be exploring is throughout the time when the kid is a kid or was a kid, right? Do we actually allow them to participate in decision making processes?
Correct.
Because
Wow.
I think as a kid, if we think back the time when we were kids, like what you correctly mentioned as well, we are always told do this, otherwise, you know so when are kids actually given a voice, or an opinion? For example, we go to an ice cream store, for example, we go to 31 Baskin Robbins, right? 31 flavors to choose from. Are kids able to explore and find out which flavor they like before they make a decision and say, Mom, I think I'll go with Rocky Road, for example? Or does parent says, no lah, simple, I decide for you. This is what you're having, and period. End of
Mhm.
conversation. How does this actually, I mean, for you working with teenagers, do they have a
I
voice?
would say um, the Asian culture, let me speak before I give my thoughts. Lah. The
Right.
Asian
That's
culture
huge.
is very much about I tell you, you listen.
Hmm. Don't argue with me.
Don't argue with me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell you, you
Don't
listen.
challenge
Just
me.
don't argue with me. Don't, what I say is correct.
Hmm.
And why? Because I'm your mother, because I'm your father,
I'm
because I'm
older
your
than you, I know
grandfather.
better.
Yeah, because I'm your uncle, because I'm your auntie. But really, on the serious note,
Hmm.
when they come to the age of 18 and you decide for them what they should study,
Right.
are you really prioritizing their happiness, or are you prioritizing your ego,
Mhm.
dear parents?
But I
Hmm.
think also, right, like sometimes it could be the parents protecting the child because, some parents, they don't believe that, okay, you want to be a baker, but then that sometimes baking can be really hard. So they want you to study something where it's easy to earn money because they've gone through the struggle of it. What about
So
these?
I ask you, Rachel, baking is hard, but if the parent want the child to study medicine,
Yeah,
Isn't
I
it
mean,
hard to?
it's hard, but it's like, it's like a more, how do I say, it's a less riskier road than going through with baking. Uh,
are you
like,
sure?
I mean, based on what
I'm
you say,
I'm
based on
challenging. I'm just challenging your ideas here. Okay. Are
Now we
you
see the debate
really?
happening.
Yeah. Are you really sure? Are you really sure that that is the most like less challenging route?
I mean,
Actually,
it
if you
depends.
ask me,
Mm,
life is hard, right? Or it can be easy depending on what you decide it to be or how you want it to be, isn't it? Because one man's meat is another man's poison, I believe. If you ask me to study medicine, I would die studying it. I have no interest in it. I have no passion in it. And I hate blood. I can't stand the sight of blood. I don't know how I'm going to be a doctor, to be really frank. Okay,
thank you
even though
for
this
saying that,
this is this is
Pauline.
what my parents want me to do, for example. I don't think so I could go down that road. And I think for a lot of parents, right, I do understand what Rachel was saying as well, that when you see a career path which is a little bit more stable, a little bit more solid, you want certainty for your kid, that there is always an income. It's easy to find a job. You're never going to be unemployed, for example, even at times as bad as COVID. You want that for your peace of mind, and also potentially lah, parents are looking out for us all the time. But the question also comes is, if you're actually forcing your kids to do something which is not part of their interest, how does that really help them?
Correct.
You know
That's
what
the
I mean?
question. So
Yeah.
when I actually asked you the question just now, Rachel, are you sure? I was actually referring to what Pauline just said. What seems to be less challenging for the parent
Mm.
is actually challenging for the child. Because imagine, Rachel, you are an insurance advisor, right? And you are also an artist. Imagine that is ripped away from you, and your parents say,
Go to
"No,
med school.
you you become a doctor." Imagine that side, that identity of yours. I am passionate about helping people to stabilize their finances. I am helping people to secure their medical expenses. You are passionate about it. And you love being an artist. That crazy side, just free flowing, and the ideas coming out on the canvas,
Mm.
that is ripped away from you.
Right.
It becomes
Mm,
challenging for you, but from in your parents point of view, probably it's not challenging. Like what Pauline say, even in these times you still would have a job.
okay,
So
understood.
really, that's why understanding what your child is really happy about
Yeah.
would help. I i come from a personal experience as well. Like, you guys are seeing, just now you said, she graduated. I graduated from accountancy, but that's nothing that I'm actually practicing now.
Right.
you know that's because I have always been passionate about people, but I was told that that's not going to give me money.
Mm, yeah.
Somehow the real identity will come out.
Mm.
And
You can't hide
protection.
forever.
Correct. You can't hide forever.
Yeah.
And parents, your concern, parents, to protect your child, to secure your child, is very real. It's very real. I am 28. I am earning. I tell you, till today, my parents are worried. My brother is earning, and my parents are worried about us, because parents, that's your job, to worry about your
To worry
children.
about us.
and and,
That's
and
true.
and even if when I become a mother, probably that's what's going to happen. But really,
Mm,
coming back to that awareness, yes, I worry, because that's the blood of my blood, the flesh of my flesh.
Mm.
So I worry. I
Yeah.
I have um this sense of protection that I need to give this child.
Right.
But also, challenge yourself to come to this space where this child is a gift given to you to nurture, to grow, to provide, that this gift will one day become a gift to another gift.
Mm.
Right.
And yeah, this gift, it's like this. Imagine this mother bird, when her eggs hatch, right? There's these little birdies in the nest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this mother bird will go and look for food and come and feed until these little birds, their wings are strong, their legs are strong. Then the mother will stop looking for food for them. They have to look for themselves.
Right.
So these are your children who will one day fly out there to be gifts of others. So you are this parents, you are this shell. This, as these children are growing up, you are this oyster shell that's actually protecting the pearls. One day you have to open up and release, because that's what your children are meant to do.
Right.
You
Mm.
as parents, you are placed here on earth for a purpose, right? You became a parent. Besides that, in whatever career you are in, you are that. You were a daughter or a son. You were a brother or a sister. And that's the exact cycle your children is going through, will be going through. As you became gift to your spouse, as you became gift to your father, your mother, your siblings, you became gift to your colleagues. Your children is being nurtured right now to be that gift.
Mm.
So you can't, your control level is only to a certain extent.
Mm, 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 mm.
Until they are done with their childhood range. Once they become teenagers,
Mm.
you are still father, you are still mother. It's difficult for parents to become friends. I will be very honest with you. It's difficult to suddenly, to take out the hat of a mother and put the hat of a friend. But at that stage, to assure them that you are there, not to nag, but you are there to support.
To God.
So your children will know they have strong support system. And
Right.
that's exactly what teenagers are actually looking for, support system.
Mm, mm.
I was recently, I do accompaniment people. So I accompany teenagers who go through difficult times one on one. So they make
Mm-hmm.
appointment with me, they share. So I carry a lot of stories, which I don't share out. I will not share out here right now because of confidentiality. But I will share this one encounter I had with this child who actually asked me why, why, my, because I work in a church, right? So this was the question. Why my church uh, don't have someone like you? And she's from this child is she's from another church.
Right.
That was where it really struck me, like they are actually looking for support system. They are really looking for support system.
Mm.
So from a lens of a teenager, when they strike puberty, parents, your assurance that no matter what happens, I am here for you.
Yeah.
That assurance makes very big difference.
Right.
Very big difference.
I think
Allowing them to give them that space to make that decision. And um you will be very surprised with the the extent your children can go. I'm surprised that every time, okay, these are the people that I meet weekly and talk to almost every day, and some things they share surprise me, like, wow, I'm in awe at their sharings. And
Mm.
these are sharings that come out based on just question. I'll just tell them, okay, I'm here to listen. What is it? Then when they feel safe being around you to share their thoughts,
Mhm.
I tell you, it becomes easy for you to guide them, not advise, to tell them what they do, to challenge them with questions. Because people who are looking for identity are actually looking for answers.
Mm.
And when you ask them questions, it makes them think. And when they start thinking and they start sharing their thoughts with you, it's easier for you to understand them. And there, you are actually helping them strengthen their wings. And when they are 18, it's easier to guide them to choose from which path they want to go.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah,
So, in terms of the decision or allowing the kids to express themselves or even start making maybe not major decisions in life like what career path, but just simple decision. For example, which toy to buy for Christmas, or when you take them out, which flavor of ice cream, for example. At what age should we actually start exposing our kids to simple decision making?
if you ask me, I would say as they are growing, 5, 6 years old, more than helping them make that decision, right? Your availability as parents
Mm.
at that very young age, to be available, and when they start making these decisions, you observe. So it doesn't really start at adolescent. It
Mm.
starts at very young age.
Mm.
Right.
When you give them a choice between bicycle or Lego, which one you want to go for?
Mm.
And adolescents don't play Lego and stuff like that.
Right.
So you want arts, or you want balloon, or you want to combine this both.
Mm.
Mm.
So as they grow, parents, you retain, definitely control needs to be there, because they are children, and they are the part of their frontal lobe of their brains, are the decision making side of their brains is still growing.
Right.
And that's why they make wrong decisions as adolescents, because this part of our brains where we learn to make decisions is still growing. It's still
Mm.
being formed,
Develop.
even we are teenagers. It's
Mm.
developing.
Mm.
So that's where the guidance, the support comes in. And that starts actually very young age. Very
Right.
young.
But I think at the end of the day, I think this is also a very good gift that parents can give their children too, because making a decision is something very valuable, especially when you become adult.
Correct.
Because yeah, you will have to face a lot of decisions, and many Malaysians they don't really know how to make decisions
Yeah.
because of the Asian culture. Lah. You
Yeah.
actually
They
this, you
be,
do
they're
this.
very indecisive. They're
Yeah.
very indecisive, and sometimes you I don't know if you have heard people complaining about someone who doesn't know how to make decision, and like one time he says this, another time is that, and then it keeps changing.
Mm.
Or
Really bad.
it's that way, or they ask 10 people to make one decision. I
What
mean,
to
they
do?
don't
What
actually
should I
ask them
decide?
what should I
Yeah,
do.
they
Yeah,
can't. Yeah,
they
correct.
can't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually a skill. Making decision is a skill to be learned. Lah. Mm.
And I like that question. I don't know what to do. Can you decide for me?
Oh my god.
um you know I have teenagers who come and tell me that, I said, sorry, I can't make decision for you. You are a person. I respect your thoughts. You share with me your thoughts. I guide you. But at the end, you make that decision. You teach them to take ownership of their actions.
Accountability needs to be taught.
Yes, yes, at a very young age. And therefore, you are actually teaching your children to value everything that happens around them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So at
Yep.
the end, they cannot turn and tell you, parents, they cannot say, you only asked me to do what?
Mm,
Yeah.
true, true.
Yeah.
That's
Very
a
true.
very, very good example. Yeah.
So, I mean, Pauline, I mean, since Jacinta has
Mhm.
shared with us, how teenagers should learn how to make decisions, and this would be the ideal way of doing things. Like, how
Yep.
can we, as financial people, help
Mhm.
them? Like, we usually talk about education planning and the
Yeah.
child. I mean,
Yeah.
this clearly shows that we may not know what our child wants to do. So how can we
Yeah.
best save for them if we don't know what to save for?
Well, I
What
would
would
say that parents, regardless, I mean, think of it. Life is actually a journey, right? We don't know from the time we're going to be born what we're going to be doing or who we're going to be meeting, you know. But what is actually important is that regardless of what your child decide, to study, parents will still need to start saving for their education funding. And I believe, from so many clients that I've actually spoken to, right, the biggest regret for them is starting too late, in terms of planning for their education funding, or even, provisioning, sufficient money every month. It could be a small amount, 1 200 ringgit, it doesn't have to be like a very big amount, but it's actually putting aside this money consistently and leveraging on, for example, your compounding interest over the period of years, that actually can make a very big difference for the parents themselves to actually support the child's education. And I think,
mm,
like what Jacinta correctly mentioned today as well, right? Once we actually empower our children to make a decision, they can actually choose whatever it is, what toy they like or what hobbies, they love to indulge in. And think about it, when we were growing up too, it's actually all about self discovery. If we don't know whether you like something, if we never tried it, how would we want to commit, our lifelong career to something that will so-called generate us that kind of income or the money? It doesn't work that way either, does it? We have to actually explore it. And then as we learn the subject, we may excel in it, doesn't mean that we like it,
Mm,
right?
mm,
You know what I mean? Because there could be other areas that we haven't explored, that maybe that was the right path that we should be going towards. But because I was never given a chance to explore it, so it was a blind side to me. So basically, I chose maybe my second or third best in order to do a certain study in it, only to find out later on, like, actually, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of parents also feel that, yeah, I can't be, like spending on my kids' education. Like this semester, they changed, from one vocation to another vocation. I
yeah.
mean, I don't print money, money doesn't grow on a money tree that I just pluck, and then say, nah,
that reminds me of what I did. And when I
really?
wanted to jump from accountancy to teaching, and my mother was like, no, you chose this, you stand to this, yeah,
Yeah.
they came from a point where, yeah, that's very
It's
real. The issue that you just said is actually
correct,
very
and it's
real.
a very difficult conversation if you actually ask me, whether it's right or wrong. At the end of the day, I think it's very hard to really say. But what is actually important, I feel, it's we need to give the kids exposure. Okay, exposure to different things for them to try out. So it's like, if you think about it, when you're growing up, you maybe learn taekwondo, then you didn't like it, it's too rough, you always get bruises, you didn't like it. Then you kind of like change to something else like ballet, but still your toes hurt, right? Because you couldn't balance very well, and then you try another something else, maybe, lesser pain, it's maybe you went fishing, but it tested your patience. It's like everything you do, you may find something you liked about it or things that you didn't like about it, and you kind of like develop, kind of like self-discover yourself, like what do you really enjoy, and that's how we go through this life of trying to figure out who we are and what we're good at, and whether or not it's an area that we want to explore more, and I think these
There's
are
a
all the
danger
indications.
in it also.
There is, there
When
is.
you keep hopping from one to another, like, what are you really looking for? I mean,
Correct.
uh, but as I listened to you sharing that, right, about self discovery and trying out exposure and stuff like that, there is very fine line to trying everything.
Yep.
Then um, the other thing is that I'm just hopping because I am afraid of commitment.
That's true. That's true.
So really, again, character awareness, um, what you really like, and when a child say don't know, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to not know now. You
Yeah.
don't need to have all answers now.
Correct.
Uh, it's a very fine line, La Pauline, to be very
Yeah.
honest with you. Like
True.
till
True.
today, I I did this once, this exercise with my teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
I like gave them the personality test and asked them
Mm.
to do. We were speaking about career,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them were like, I don't know lah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what suits my character.
Right.
But my mother wants me to become a teacher. But my father wants me to do this.
Right.
So when I hear words like that, I ask, what do you want?
Right.
And and the child says, don't know. So when I dive in a little more deeper and a little more on the background, listening stories, and really, yeah, uh, then I realized that it's the upbringing.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So really, there is not just about exposure; it's
Yeah.
also about teaching them to be committed. Like
Correct.
when my mom enrolled us for taekwondo, right? It's not something that I want to do on a Saturday morning, but she made sure we finished till black belt.
Right.
So both my brother and I have black belt, but that perseverance taught me to be committed.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's about teaching at the same time, really balance of both lah.
It's a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. I would agree to that.
So I think one of the
Yeah.
things that we could sum up from today's session, since it's already an hour plus, right? I think
Yeah.
the best thing for us parents to do is to be a guide and actually a support system when it's necessary, lah. Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
yes, you have to put on the role of the parent when you find that it's needed, but sometimes,
Yeah.
most of the time when it's adolescence, it's more of guiding. I think.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, like even creating a savings pool for your child's education is also part of that tool. You're
Yeah.
just giving them
For
that
sure.
tool of money, because at the end of the day, money is the one that's going to make their dreams. Is like the connector to their dreams. So the
Yeah.
best thing you could do is actually just start setting aside cash, for them, and that could be towards their education, or it could even be as a capital towards a business that they want
Yeah.
to start. So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So I think
Mm.
there is a lot of things to really discuss about this topic. For sure, it's not going to be just a 1 hour that miraculously we have all the answers. But what we
Yeah.
would love you guys to do is do connect with Jacinta John. If let's say you found that this session was really helpful and you may want to explore, other questions that we didn't cover, then
Yeah.
you could actually drop Jacinta an email, right, at jacintajohn1411@gmail.com, right? And
Yes.
I think at the same time as well, if parents are having any questions with regards to education planning or how do we actually help, the kids to at least how much to put aside on a monthly basis, right? You can connect with both Rachel and myself, and we'll be able to help you see how much you really need to put aside, to help make sure that your kids' dreams also come true. Okay, so
Mm.
that's where you can connect with us, and we do a lot of sharing on a daily basis from Mondays to Fridays. So, if you love to follow us and find out more about these financial topics, please do connect with us. Okay, and I think before we really wrap up tonight, we must say a really big thank you to Jacinta for this lovely time she spent with us. I think we've learned
Yes.
quite a bit from her as well from her 1 hour sharing. Okay, and
Same
we
here.
definitely need to have you back on the show sometime again, to
Thank you
share
for
more,
having me too, ladies.
right?
Thank you.
But again, just another small gentle reminder in 2 weeks' time, which is on the 17th of November, we do have Teacher Keen with us. So if you want to know more, okay, as a continuation from tonight's topic, okay, if money was not a problem, what dreams would you pursue? And this is actually quite related to helping your kids to discover themselves also. And how do we support them for making a decision for their future career, right? So this is basically that. So if you have any questions for us, do type it in the comments or get connected with us and do ask us at any time. You can just connect with us. So wishing all you guys out there happy Deepavali and happy
Happy
holidays for those,
Deepavali.
who are not celebrating. So do remember to keep safe. Follow the SOPs, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for our season finale. Good night, everyone. Take
Good
care.
night. Take care. Bye.
Bye.